Ronald Zion Roseboro's world crashed, just like a skyscraper at a demolition site. He was accused of assault by his girlfriend, and despite his effort to prove his innocence, he spent 5 years incarcerated. When I read that, my heart just gripped. And I'm sure that yours will too as you listen to his amazing story. He also was the caregiver of his grandmother who suffered from Alzheimer's and a single parent of his daughter from age 1 to 11. Trauma, anger, shame, grief, and bitterness became the debris of his life as he stood in disbelief at ground zero, staring at a life that was now in ruins. You do not want to miss Ron's story.
Have you ever felt like giving up, quitting, throwing in the towel? Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope featuring Carol Graham. She's an author, health coach, and motivational speaker. Backed into a corner multiple times in her life, Carol shares with you stories on how she overcame some of the toughest obstacles a person can go through in life, but refused to give up hope. Rather than admit defeat, an opportunity was presented, and it involves each and every one of you. Carol will feature spectacular guests who will share their messages of hope, encouragement, and their inspiration to prove why life's adversities only make you stronger. And now, welcoming the host of the show, here's Carol Graham.
Ronald Zion Roseboro was released from the U.S. prison system in 2004. Over 20 years later, he is now the founder and CEO of Shame Free Life Coaching. I love that. Life coaching and consulting, a certified trauma-informed coach, professional life coach, and inventor of the brick mythology, which is a blueprint for rebuilding after loss. Wow, Ron, we've got a lot to talk about today, and I thank you so much for being on Never Ever Give Up Hope.
Thank you so much for having me, Carol. It's a pleasure to be
S-
here.
So now tell us your story. Start with wherever you would like to start as far as when your world came crashing down, and tell us your story.
Sure, absolutely. So I think a perfect segue would be to revisit prior to the incarceration, just so that you and all the listeners can get a full
Sure.
panoramic view. My parents were loving parents up until around 2 years old. My mother and my father divorced. Uh, so there was a timeline between 2 and 7 that I was without a male presence in the home. So my
Hmm.
mother remarried around age 8, and my father was a wonderful father. He taught me so many dynamics as it relates to how to steward the household financially. So that was very good. That's something that I always ingested. However, he was absent, or MIA, emotionally and mentally. So he was physically there, but spiritually, emotionally, and mentally absent. Now, I think a lot of that can be
Hmm.
attributed to his father being absent in his life.
Hmm.
And so the cycle began. And so, even with that particular void in my life, I still had a wonderful childhood up until preteen. And so I started longing for what I never had, which was
Hmm.
male guidance, male wisdom, to help me navigate through life's questions with no answers. And I found myself gravitating to my peers, who many of them came from the same type of cycle and miseducation and misdirection. And so we began to learn. I began to learn about um, the nuances of being a man after uh, a high school football game or in the locker room,
Hmm.
in those kinds of venues. It became a classroom for manhood. It was very distorted because, as the
Hmm.
Bible says, how can the blind lead the blind except they both find themselves falling in the ditch? And so, just fast forwarding throughout high school, still trying to find my way, still trying to grasp this concept of manhood. Now I'm moving into my adult years, and a young lady that she and I we started dating uh, for a year, and she happened to have been the daughter of a sergeant in internal affairs. Later, was reprimanded by his superiors and had his gun taken from him because
Oh,
he
wow.
committed domestic violence against a woman who was not his wife.
Huh.
And then later, he was fired from the force. Um, but that happened after I was accused of assaulting, at that time, my girlfriend. And I
Hmm.
adamantly and vigorously uh, attempted to prove my innocence. And that's the reason why I pled not guilty. Not just because it was a title, but it was something that I knew that I had to do in order for the truth to surface.
Hmm.
Nonetheless, um, I was convicted, and I was committed to the prison in North Carolina for 5 years and 1 month. Now, Carol, I think it's very needful for me to cover this as well as what I've just said. At the time of my incarceration, uh, I was a single parent, a single parent of a daughter that her mother and I, through the court system, we came to a consensus that it would be best for my daughter to live with me. And my
Mm.
mother helped to raise my daughter as well as myself. So her mother had other uh, commitments as far as my daughter having siblings. So I just thought that it was only right for me
Hmm.
as the father to step up to the plate and to present myself as that, not just financially, but to really give her what I never had. So she lived with me, and my mother at that time. She lived across the street, and it was my grandmother, myself, and my daughter. And my mother just within a couple of houses away, and she would help me out because at that time I was also a student in the college transfer program to take my leap to the university and to obtain my degree. And I also worked two jobs at that time of my arrest, of my incarceration. I worked
Mm.
for a bank, a well known bank, and also worked for an insurance company. So I was on a trajectory of turning the page and moving into manhood as best as I knew how until this happened. And my
Mm.
whole world came to an end as I knew it.
No
So
kidding.
now I'm taken out of civilian life, a normal life, and I'm thrusted into an abnormal, hostile environment
Mm.
that I must adapt to. So that is trauma or traumatic in itself. That you're
Absolutely.
taken out of civilian life and you're thrown into an atmosphere that you don't know how to survive. And every move that you make must be calculated. And there's an unspoken rule amongst the residents of that particular environment, those prisons, that you must abide by. So I had to suppress various parts of me, the humanistic side of me, in order to acclimate to this particular environment and culture.
How did you do that?
It was very difficult, Carol, because I have to also add this into the mix of dialogue. I had a nervous breakdown, and
Mm.
it was nothing but the grace of Almighty God to heal my emotions in such a way, not in
Hmm.
totality, because it's difficult to heal from trauma when you're constantly in a position of being re-traumatized daily.
Right. Right.
So you would have to be removed from that environment in order for proper healing to take place. So uh, after the nervous breakdown, I began to just um, dive into uh, God even more, into His Word even more.
Excuse me, Ron. Was this while you were still incarcerated?
This, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Go ahead.
Absolutely, is while I was still incarcerated, and during that time also, uh, I had the privilege in meeting several wardens. It was many prisons that I was transferred to during this
Hmm.
5 year and 1 month stint, moving from prison to prison, and at that time, meeting wardens that heard about me in every good sense, and how I would help uh, fellow, and I call them returning citizens, as opposed to inmates, but I would help returning citizens read. Those who did not
Hmm.
have a level of education to be able to properly read, I would help them. Leading Bible study and those kinds of things. Writing. I wrote my first book while in prison. So, you know, it is a very bittersweet situation. But I know that even in the midst of that, that diamonds are made under pressure. It starts out as being nothing but just black coal, but now it's, you can find it in Tiffany's. Now you can find it in Jared's or Zales or Kay's Jewelry. That now we're spending high uh, 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 profits on what used to be black coal, but now it is very valuable and priceless because it had to go through the stages and phases of being under pressure in order for it to come out with the brilliance and the radiance that one would deem it as being something of value. And that's how I kind of envision my experience in prison.
And I think that a lot of people will and can relate to that as well. The couple questions I have. First of all, were you a Christian before you went to prison?
I was a Jonah before I went to prison.
Okay, okay.
Let me kind of unpack that.
Yes.
So I knew that I had a call of God on my life when I was 5 years old. It was it was very it was very apparent. It was very real, and then it was confirmed throughout my entire youth and even up until my uh, young adult age. Um, I thought it was very kind. I thought it was very nice. It would be a super cool title to have, but I wanted to live life as a teenager. I wanted to rebel. I wanted to party. I wanted to be really accepted because I came from a background of being rejected. And so abandonment and rejection was something that I tried my best to steer away from. And I found myself being accepted, but being accepted by the wrong people. So yes, I had a youthful past of being a follower of Christ, and then I just turned back and started following the ways of the world.
So how did you handle bitterness while you were still there in jail, in prison?
It was very difficult at first when I think back in hindsight of the nervous breakdown. I think after that, how I coped, my healthy coping mechanism was finding solace in God's presence. I began to read the writings of Paul in the epistles of him writing one third of the epistles while incarcerated. I began to look at the life of John the Baptist while he was incarcerated. I began to look at Joseph in Genesis chapter 39,
Hmm.
who was accused of a crime that he did not commit,
Right, right,
and he went
right.
to prison. I began to look at the life of the one that many of us follow, and his name is Jesus, or Yeshua the Christ. And not only did he do time in prison, but he was on death row. Jeremiah, the prophet. So I begin to look at all of these figures, and I begin to look at how we have something uncanny in common, that we're in a
Right.
place, in a space, in time that we hate. And you have to wrestle with your emotions and anger and resentment, bitterness. It becomes like internal poison that erodes the very fiber of your being, if you will allow it to. But it's only by the grace of God that it did not. But it was very, very difficult. But I found myself hiding in the Word and hiding in God's presence for Him to reaffirm me where I have received so much rejection, and for myself to get into a safe place in Him, even in the midst of so much chaos around me.
And now in hindsight, you look back and you see the weaving of your life, so to speak, and how it brought you to where you are now, correct?
Absolutely. I always say when people ask me, do I have any, if it's anything I could change, what would it be? Um, that I wouldn't have to go through this, but I can honestly say that through it all, that I would never be who I am right now, and I'm still on the potter's wheel. But I would never be who I am
Right.
to walk in the totality of my identity and the authority of Christ had I not experienced this type of deficit and detriment in my life. It basically has and continues to continue to push me toward my destiny.
That's an incredible attitude, and that in the natural sense is another thing that got you through. But
Mhm.
also for those who maybe don't understand that or are not Christians,
Mhm.
even in the natural sense, your tenacity,
Resilience.
resilience, perfect, yes. Audience is relating. If I'm relating, there are many in the audience who are relating. And there are those in the audience who don't understand possibly or are still bitter. And I can
Mm.
see that as part of your mission also, that considering what you went through and not being bitter is amazing. And I thank you for sharing that part. So your mission is to help, I love this, to help men breathe again.
Carol Graham would like to show you the path from misery to miraculous triumph in her fast paced memoir, Battered Hope. She relates her determination to succeed as someone who experienced one horrendous nightmare after another: gang raped and left for dead, loss of a child, husband falsely imprisoned, and cancer. Nothing could break her tenacity or faith. No matter what you face, heartache, loss, suffering, or injustice, Carol will illustrate how she became a victor the same way you can. The secret is to never, ever give up hope. Order your copy at Amazon or batteredhope.blogspot.com.
With a Master's of Arts in Human Resources Counseling, Crisis Response and Trauma, his mission is to help men breathe again and resurrect spiritual strength when life throws bricks at them. That is great. So, going forward, tell us about your books.
Yes, absolutely. It's something that I actually failed to mention. So, upon my release, uh, I enrolled in a 4-year institution for my undergrad, Lee University, Christian ministry with a concentration of pastoral counseling. From there, I uh, translated into my graduate work, and that's where I obtained my master's. And then from there, I began to just build upon that in human services counseling, crisis response, and trauma, various certifications, trauma informed professional life coaching.
Hmm.
And so um, And the brick method was morphed out of that, and it's basically it's not just a book. It started out as a book, but it basically grew into a program. And the acronyms for brick is B for breakthrough, R for resilience, I for identity, C for clarity, and K for kickstart.
Hmm.
And so I take all of my clients through all of these stages of the brick method, because oftentimes in life we're carrying around a lot of bricks. And
Hmm.
the metaphor is just imagine that you received a notification that that an F5 tornado is on its way to your state. And now the governor, he pronounces, hey, listen, this is a state of emergency in this state, and I need everyone to take cover. And not only is that tornado in your state, but now that tornado now has made its way to your city. Even beyond that, it has made its way to your neighborhood. So now you only have seconds to get all of your belongings, your loved ones together, and to get out and to flee the devastation that is pending. And you do. But you have to leave behind this home that you inherited. And you put a lot of sweat equity into this home to expand it. The renovations cost thousands of dollars, from just a small ranch house to now a beautiful estate. And the house holds so many memories from your childhood to your adulthood. And when you come back to your community and you see your community completely decimated, and you make your way to your street, which reflects the community, and you see what used to be your home, and now you're standing at ground zero. The kitchen sink is around the corner. Your roof is next door. Uh, uh, Bricks are everywhere. And now you're just standing with the rubbles of the ruins that used to be a monumental home. So you have a decision to make. Do I cry about and do I continue to carry the remnants of the bricks in the backpack of my soul? Or do I just roll up my sleeves and rebuild where I am? And this is what I do, and this is where I come in with men to help them rebuild their lives one brick at a time. You don't have to continue to carry the bricks of imposter syndrome, anger, resentment, rage. You don't have to carry the bricks of low self esteem, rejection, and being dejected, feeling worthless, or addiction and codependency. Those bricks get very heavy after a certain amount of time, year after year, carrying the same bricks, and you're stacking more bricks on top of that. So I help men unpack in a community setting, whether it's one-on-one coaching or group coaching, such as Samson Restored that I launched this year. Is basically a community of men that we can come together and talk. That's something that we don't oftentimes do as women. Women have no problem in talking, inventing, whether it's over a glass of wine at a wine bar, or whether it's after church, or whether it's at a restaurant, or whether it's at one of their girlfriend's home, to just talk about the trauma and the pain and the anguish, and or talk about relationships that were dysfunctional and toxic. But as men, we internalize everything.
Right,
We're
right.
told by society, say nothing, man up, suck it up. Well, how can I man up if I don't speak up? And so this is the perfect venue for men to be naked and not ashamed. Hence, the company is called the Shame Free Life Coaching and
Hmm.
Consulting, so that we don't have to worry about walking in the murky waters of shame, because there's a life raft. And that life raft is called accountability, building trust with one another, that the guards of suspicion and paranoia can come down, that we can have one another's best interests at heart, to see one another win, and to see one another become restored.
So could you share possibly one or two experiences that you have had in helping someone who was stuck?
Absolutely. Not just in the practice of coaching within the shame-free life dynamic, but even before in prison, there would be countless men that would come to me with their problems, and I don't have time to grieve over my own problems. So
Hmm.
I had to show up and make myself available and be very present to have a listening ear to hear of what is being said and also what is not being said, and to offer advice when asked, but just to help men pull out of them the answer that lies under the ruins of excuses, delinquency, hurt, pain, brokenness, and trauma. So it actually started there. It began to kind of morph into the practice that I have now. So there is Orlando that I met, very, very misguided from his youth. But there was a lot of brokenness there of having to be in a home of domestic violence and how it affected him. And he no
Hmm.
longer
Hmm.
could trust men, though he was a man. And so we walked through that, we unpacked it, began to see himself as not being helpless or a victim. It's okay to trust again. It's okay to give yourself permission to live again. There is Jerome that I helped, having a lot of issues with at that time his girlfriend. They're married now, and we begin to kind of unpack that of existing in a home where he had a lot of mother wounds to his soul. And
Hmm.
that's what trauma is. Trauma is basically a soul wound. And we can, there's so many definitions that we can attach to trauma. But in my line of work, I really see it as a wound to the soul. It's a deep emotional and psychological or spiritual trauma that scars the mind, the will, and the emotions. And so I begin to help Jerome unpack a lot of things that have been um, uh, suppressed or carrying around those bricks that I referred to earlier in the backpack of his soul, and it became very heavy. So now, the young lady that he was seeing and that he saw as being a girlfriend, he wasn't sure if this is the one. Now, when she went to her own individual counseling session, he saw me. And so now they're married and they're doing well. I mean, completely exceptional. So when I look at those stories um, and the fruits of it, it is amazing to see people unpack, to have a mindset to be free and to stay free.
I also loved your analogy. Thank you for sharing those stories. But the analogy of the bricks is I was been taking notes, and this is an incredible analogy, and I thank you for sharing that with my audience. Everybody in any area of their life can certainly relate to that. So thank you. How would you, or maybe share your own story of how you forgave? Because many people, I would assume, especially those who are now incarcerated and those that you were able to help in that vein, how how do you share with them or help them forgive?
Thank you. That's a very good question, Carol. You know, oftentimes, how can I say this? Well, I'll just say it the way it needs to be said. We we romanticize forgiveness. Talk about forgiveness as if it is something that is very easy.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
is something that is to be expected. It is something that shame on you if you have not forgiven. That somehow that God will come down from his throne and he would reprimand you in such a way that is almost like that you would not even exist after the reprimand because you have broken such a carton of sin that you should have progressed in such a way by now, after all of this time, to have forgiven. Forgiveness is a process. Forgiveness, it happens in stages and phases. It's not, it's not something that happens overnight.
Right.
And even when you look at the true essence of forgiveness from an Old Testament standpoint, and I learned this from my wife, who's an amazing scholar. Even when you look in the book of Proverbs, it says that when a thief is found, he shall restore sevenfold. And before that, it says, don't despise a thief. Well, it was in Old Testament that when you steal from someone, you hurt that person, you have to restore them. If you took $50, you restore $50. Yes, you said that you were sorry, but sorry will not replace what you have stolen from me.
Hmm.
And so a lot of people will try to spiritualize and put a New Testament twist on it and say that, well, Jesus, he did it all. But even Christ himself abide by the Old Testament. He said, I didn't come to destroy the law, but I came to fulfill it. So there must be, for total forgiveness, there must be a restoration to take place. I think that I would like to say, as opposed to forgiving, that I have learned to release her.
Hmm.
Speaking of the young lady, I would like to release her father for the things that were that I had to endure.
Right. Right.
It's not easy. It is so hard, and it took me years, Carol. So if we're
Hmm.
talking from May 5th of 1999, and I was released June 2nd, 2004. From June 2nd, 2004 until 2023, there were weightiness of bricks that I actually
Hmm.
carried throughout those years.
Hmm.
Now you do the math from 2002
Right.
to 2023, still operating, still helping people, but there's still a piece of me that's wounded. There's a piece of me that I
Hmm.
get triggered. And triggers are not bad. It just points to a reality for
Right.
us to take a look at. So it took me years, Carol, to get to a place to truly release and to not shame myself if I'm triggered by something, but to give myself grace. And all those years, Carol, I did not give myself enough grace.
Why don't you explain that for the audience?
Yes, so I think a lot of times we berate ourselves unknowingly, and we put a lot of pressure upon ourselves to be at a certain place in time. If something happened to you, something very devastating happened to you, and it was life altering, you can't expect for somebody to just, as in the immortal words of Dr. Phil, just get over it. Well, that's not going to happen in the real world. And so, which I think is horrible advice. And so, uh, whatever progress that you make as far as releasing, becoming more free. Not necessarily, if even if you haven't forgiven the person, don't place the weight upon yourself that you're horrible, that you're immature, that you're just so broken. You should have forgiven by now. Well, if you haven't, welcome to the club. It takes time, but look in the rearview mirror of your accomplishments of what you have done. If you're better today than you were yesterday, I would say that's progress. If you're better today than you were 5 years ago, I would say that that is certainly progress. So we have to celebrate the steps of grace that we have made throughout the annals of time, and not place so many weighty expectations or have lofty expectations of where we should be, as opposed to celebrating where we are, because this is a
Right.
journey.
Right.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Excellent. Who should buy your books?
I think anyone who have ever experienced trauma, Anyone
Okay.
who has ever experienced rejection, dejection, feeling less than, unworthy, second guessing your own worth should buy my book.
Which book are you referring to? And is one of them your memoir?
So I am in the midst of once I things begin to settle down, write a memoir of my own life. But I
Okay.
have for men, is there a Samson in you? But it's amazing that the vast majority of my buyers or purchasers of this book are women because they want
Really?
to know
Huh.
what men go through.
Okay.
These
Okay.
are daughters, wives, girlfriends, nieces, and mothers. And so I draw a parallel between the struggles and vices of Samson and the struggles and vices of men, and how you don't have to rest your head in Delilah's lap and lose not just your hair, but your purpose.
Excellent. And the Samson Restored movement, is that up and running?
It is. Yes, it is.
And did you address that already or?
Yeah, yeah, I kind of just brushed through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you want to maybe share a little bit about that?
Yes. So Samson, and thank you. Samson Restored is basically a spinoff of the book that I penned. Is there a Samson in you?
Okay.
And so Samson Restored is primarily a support group, an online group of men to come together to find community, restoration, and wholeness. And so without any shame. And to be in the confines of safety, security, and confidentiality. And so that is pretty much the hallmark of Samson Restored.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, in conclusion, is there anything that you maybe haven't touched on that you would like to, or any word of encouragement, or anything that you would like to share with the audience?
Absolutely. In the words of C.S. Lewis, he says that you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the
Hmm.
ending.
Hmm.
And I think that's so important. It's very easy for us to drive to our purpose or our destiny while looking in the rearview mirror all the time, and and put ourselves at risk, and the passengers that are a part of our purpose and destiny, put them at risk to crash and burn, as opposed to occasionally glancing at your past through the rearview mirror, certain accomplishments, certain triggers in the rearview mirror, but don't stare at it. Just glance. But we should be staring through the windshield of hope, the windshield of purpose. And I think that's very important for us to really take to heart so that we can become the best versions that we're supposed to be.
This has been, for lack of a better word, inspiring, but it's so much more than that. It has been encouraging. It has been uplifting. I know, as I mentioned in the top of the show, that many people are going to relate, including myself. I love your tenacity. I love your attitude. There's a calmness, there's a forgiveness, there's a warmth that emanates from you. You have touched my heart, is what I'm trying to say. We don't know each other, and you don't know my story. And until today, I didn't even know part of yours. I relate it with that, and for that, I thank you immensely. Also, going forward, I look forward to sharing your story, to see how many people can be helped as a result of what you shared here today. And again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being so open and honest and sharing from your heart. Thank you. Thank you for being on. Never ever give up hope.
You so much, and it's a fitting title, fitting host, and that is That's the clarion call to never ever give up.
Thank you for listening to Never Ever Give Up Hope, featuring Carol Graham. Did you know that most people succeed because they are determined to? Quitting was never an option. Carol loves your comments and will respond to each one. So please subscribe and review this podcast. A rating of 5 stars would be outstanding and appreciated. Remember, if you are still here, there is always hope.